folks. So today I'm here with an Onkyo M-282 2-channel power amp. I picked this up off of eBay. I made a low offer for it. It said it was blowing fuses. I wanted to see a picture of the blown fuse before I bought it, but the owner didn't have it. So I took a flyer on it, and I'll talk a little more about that later. This is what I would consider to be a mid-tier product. By the 90s, Onkyo was starting to lose some of the higher quality that they had shown in the 80s designs. Some of their large power amps and preamps are pretty well regarded. But anyway, I picked this up and I'm going to show you what's going on with it, and let's dive in. So I sacrificed the fuse because obviously they've replaced the fuse at least once, and while that's not wise as you can cause more damage, I figured I can always fix whatever happens. And anyone who's watched this channel may have heard me say that a blown fuse tells a story, and this one is no different. Here's a close-up of this fuse. You can see that the element exploded violently and plated molten fuse element on the glass. This tells you that just replacing the fuse isn't going to do you any good until you get to the root cause of whatever the dead short in here is. I don't know how well you can see this, but the board here is discolored. It looks like these transistors just normally run hot. That's not great design. They could have put these transistors a little further off the board, or maybe it was the resistors that are getting hot. In any event, I'm not going to worry about that. The main thing I want to check is I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a shorted transformer, and I don't believe we do. So I want to check the bridge rectifier and the outputs, and that should tell us where our problem is. First place I'm going to start is the bridge rectifier. The outer legs go to the positive and negative supplies or rails. The inner legs go to the transformer. The fuse is out, so I'm not going to bother with the inner legs. So we're charging up a capacitor here and charging up a cap here. So that doesn't look bad. And I'm going to start taking a look at these outputs. So first output looks good. Base to collector, base to emitter. That looks good. Now I tried the other one. I'm not sure how well you can see where I'm going here. My hand's in the way and so is the meter. That looks good. That looks good. Okay, now I'm going to check the other channel. So this one, base to emitter. Shorted. Base to collector. Shorted. Okay, so both these outputs are bad. So some manufacturers cut an access port in the bottom so you can service this. At this price point, they did not. So in order to get this board out, I am going to have to either take out the heatsink assembly and the board, or unscrew the transistors and the bridge rectifier from the heatsink assembly, which looks like it's problematic now that I look. And let me just move this a bit. There are screws going to the heatsink assembly here, so I'm going to pull heatsink assembly and board in one piece. Alright, so I took the screws out of the heatsink assembly, some screws out of the back that held the board in, but there's still not enough room to get this out because the speaker jacks are still going through the back. So I'm going to unscrew the back panel, and I think then I should be able to get this board. It's still connected to the power, and I'm just going to try and flip it over to work on it. Alright, a few screws, back panel's off. It's still got the power board on there with the cord plugs in. But now we should be able to get this and flip it over so I can look at the bottom and unsolder those transistors, and also to check and see what else may have failed, because it's unusual for just the outputs to go. Not impossible, but unusual. Well, as it turns out, the outputs were the only thing that were bad. I initially thought that these 2.2 ohm resistors were bad. I couldn't see that there's a some kind of coating on the resistor here, and I didn't get good connection with my ohm meter, so I thought they were both open. But they were not. I pulled them and tested them, and they both tested good. I ended up having to replace this one because somehow I managed to lose the other one. It'll turn up the next time I clean my bench, which will probably be right after this. But I have it plugged into the dim bulb tester and replaced the fuse, and I just heard it click out of protection, so I'm going to put it all back together. We'll put on the distortion analyzer and see what we get. Okay, so it's been on for a couple of minutes now. Looks like the channel I replaced the transistors, the bias is a little high. It's supposed to be 2 millivolts, give or take 0.1 millivolt. So I'm going to adjust both of these because they're both a little high. Okay. We'll check this again after it's been on a little longer. But okay, they both look pretty good. Now let's pump some signal through it and see what we can get. Alright, so we're supposed to be able to get 100 watts of channel out of this thing. Right now I've just got about 15 millivolts coming out of here, and does not look bad. We're gonna have to start ramping it up here and see what we can get. Okay. Okay, that's a little much there. 43 watts. Just starts to clip there. 82. Yeah. Alright, this isn't going to make kind of wattage it claims to make. You take a look at the manual and see what it says about that. Okay, the bias is settling down, looks pretty good. This one says 2.2, but it's dropping just a little bit as the heat sink cools down. Next thing I want to do is I want to check the rectifier for AC voltage to see if we're getting excessive ripple, because this thing's running out of gas before it hits 100 watts. And the specs say 100 watts per channel, minimum RMS at 8 ohms, both channels driven from 20 to 20 kilohertz, with no more than 0.08% harmonic distortion. Now, I don't know if anyone watched the video I did, but if you want to measure distortion accurately, you have to measure at the output of the amplifier, not at the load. If you want to measure the power accurately, you measure at the load, and that's usually what I do. If I want to make sure it's meeting distortion spec, I made up a set of cables for that, but mostly I want to make sure it meets output, and as you can see in this case, it's not. Okay, our bias looks like it's settled in really well. I'm going to turn this thing off, and then I want to check for AC volts on the DC rails to see if there's any significant ripple. Okay, so I'm not seeing significant amounts of ripple on here, even under load. They're both very symmetrical, so I believe the filter caps are okay. However, I did notice when I turn it on and run it up to as much clean output as I can get out of here, that my power line is sagging. Sometimes I have to run a dedicated line to an amplifier if it's really powerful. This I didn't think was that powerful, but apparently I need to do that in order to get full output. So I'm going to run a dedicated line to this. I had my electrical service replaced when I had a charger put in for the car, and I really should have, and I thought about having these guys run 2 dedicated 20 amp circuits to my bench, but I didn't, and of course I'm paying for it now. Okay, I've got a dedicated line run from another outlet, and let's see what we can get out of here now. Okay, that looks good. 87, that's starting to clip. But we're close to 100 watts. Still, it's clipping way too much. And I am getting a little sag. I'm down to 119 volts. We're pulling only 3.6 amps. Anyhow, I think that's as good as this is going to get. So I'm going to hook it up and play some music through here, see what it sounds like. Okay, so I turned the test equipment off, but it's still a little noisy because the air conditioning is running. It's back to being hot as usual down here in South Florida. But I got some music running through here. And it sounds pretty good. It's a shame it didn't quite meet spec, but I'm not going to worry about it. This is not a very expensive unit. But that was really the only problem, was the 2 outputs were blown. It does occasionally happen like that. Very often, however, you need to look back because those output failures can cascade back into the amplifier. Never know what happens to these things. I do see pencil marks over the transistors. Somebody had been in here before. You know, when you buy old equipment, you know somebody's been in before. But anyway, that's all we had to do here, is just replace the output. So it was a fairly cheap repair. Those outputs, they are 2SC 5200s and 2SA 1943s. I buy them 10 at a time, get them for probably $4 each. So for what I paid for it and those transistors, I might even break even on this one. Anyhow, I'm going to stop this video here. As always, I thank everyone for watching, and I like giving back to the community that's given me so much. Thanks, folks.